class, and welcome back to our English learning. I hope you've all had a lovely weekend and are ready to get back into it. So today we are going to be actually finishing our new innovation of the novel Wonder. Now, when I've read some children's pieces of writing of this so far, the 4 chapters that you've done are just tremendous, and I'm really, really impressed with the amount of effort and time that you've taken to do this writing. So far, just as a quick reminder, we've done the majority of the story now, where our main character has kind of started school and has then fallen out with his friend, has then refused to go back to school, and today we're actually looking at him going back to school, this final section, and making friends with a new friend. So, what I want you guys to do is actually pause the video and read through your whole novel so far. Quite often it's really hard to just start writing this fifth section if you haven't reread it all. So take this time to go back to Tuesday, the 23rd of June, read chapter 1, then chapter 2, and so on. And obviously, when you then get to chapter 4, you can unpause the video and continue to watch ready for today's learning, okay? So take this time now to read through it. Okay, so hopefully you've read through your own version of Wonder and you've got to this point where your main character has been coaxed back into school. It might be back through bribery, it might be that actually he's just had a conversation and a bit of a debate with his parents and he's agreed to go back. So now, this final section, we are actually going to be writing the final little bit where he goes back to school and he does actually find a new friend and he just settles back into normal school life, okay? So we need quite a lot of imagery because we're going to have a lot of thought, a lot of um, time in this chapter to kind of discuss how the character's feeling, what's kind of going on, where he is, and just a lot of detail really about the school as he goes back. So I want you to think about imagery and about the 5 senses. When you do this, this is really going to help you to try and then include parentheses in your writing. So we've talked about this last week where we just add a little bit more detail into our writing. So for example, we can have brackets, dashes or commas, which I'll explain again for you in a second. And then the main lesson objective of today is to look at dialogue, description and action. We did this really well last week, but I was afraid that some of you just didn't quite get it punctuated accurately, especially the dialogue. So we're going to really ramp up that focus today, okay? So when we think about somebody saying something, I'm just going to type it here. We talk about, for example, if my main character Toby was saying, "Hello, Sophie. My name is Toby." Okay, literally as simple as that. I'm going to finish it with a full stop. If this, for example, was in a speech bubble, so this is my speech bubble that my main character is saying. If this was in a speech bubble, this is what my character is saying. "Hello, Sophie. My name is Toby." So when we then pop the speech bubble, as we say, everything that's inside here does actually go into our inverted commas. So if you remember, I've got my 66 at the start here before my capital letter, and then I've got the closing of the inverted commas, which is the 99. Sorry, it's not as neat as it would be here. There, and it's outside of the full stop. Just because we've got inverted commas doesn't mean that we get rid of this. So in doing that, we've then popped this bubble because we've now got our inverted commas, so we don't need the speech bubble because we know that that's what a character's saying, and we know that that character's saying it from the inverted commas. Okay, so just remember you have this inside of it. A lot of people last week were putting the full stop on the outside like that, but actually this is part of what the character is saying. Okay, so I've started to write this, but I actually want you guys to then write your own this week, today, sorry. So if I have a read of this for you, this is just a model that we're not going to copy, we're not going to magpie, we're just going to use today to give us some ideas and to actually help us to write our own. So if I read this for you. 2 weeks later, I was back at teacher prep and it was like I'd never been away. After a long debate with my parents, I had no choice but to give in. In order to survive, though, I knew I needed to make new friends. On my first day back, Sophie came to sit next to me for lunch. She was the girl who gave me the tour with Harry on my visit day. She was nice though. Where have you been? Haven't seen you in ages. I replied, yeah, I know. Candy didn't want to come in. Harry hasn't been a good friend. So then I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about this, about what's around me, about how safe and secure I now feel in school. Okay, and then that is the end of it. So you're maybe going to carry on a bit more of the dialogue. You're going to talk about how you're saying some of these things. I replied, for example, if you want a bit of description blended in with your dialogue, shyly. I replied shyly, yeah, I know, Candy didn't want to come in. Okay. Um, I've got a lot of fronted adverbials here 2 weeks later, after a long debate with my parents on my first day back. So if you decide you want to change some of these, then you can. All right. Also, if you have your dialogue, you're going to continue it and basically then talk about how comfortable you now feel at school. Don't forget the rule for speech is inverted commas and new line, new speaker. So this is what Sophie says here. And then this is what I, Toby, am saying. Okay, so that's why I've got it on a new line and I've not carried it on here. So that's another thing we need to remember when we look at dialogue. Okay, so I'm looking forward to reading your final sections today. This is your success criteria that you need to include today. You've obviously got this plan that you have done, so you know all of the things that you need to include. We can't just end it really abruptly. This isn't an ending. Okay, yeah, I know Candy didn't want to come in. Harry hasn't been a good friend. I need to continue it. I need to talk about how I'm now feeling at school. I need to talk about Sophie being my best friend. Okay. So that's how it's then going to be ended. Okay. Once we have then done these towards the end of this week and next week, we're going to actually write them into our books. So I'm really excited to do this. And let's make today's writing a really good final piece. Look, everybody.